launched directly into the continuous minute-by-minute forensic reconstruction of Correggio, Italy, 1939. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke and the impending shadow of World War II. You are Leonarda Cianciulli, a middle-aged woman with a history of severe biological trauma, 17 pregnancies, 10 miscarriages, and the death of 3 more children in their youth. This is the primary behavioral data point, a mind forged by grief and an obsessive, deviant superstition. When your eldest son, Giuseppe, is called to join the Italian army, your psychological fracture becomes absolute. You are convinced that only a human sacrifice could trade a life for a life, a calculated, biological exchange to keep your son safe from the front lines. There is no room for philosophy here, only the clinical mechanics of a mind that treats human life as a chemical ingredient. Visualize Leonarda's small soap shop, a place of domestic order that is about to become a laboratory for a severe deletion. The natural lighting of the shop is dim, illuminated by a single flickering bulb and the glow of a boiling cauldron. Every crime leaves a trace, but Leonarda is a master of domestic camouflage. She selects her victims with a calculated precision, lonely middle-aged women with no immediate family to miss them. The first target is Faustina Setti. Leonarda lures her with a promise of a husband in another city, a classic predatory hook designed to ensure the victim tells no one of her departure. The investigation into the mechanics of this sacrificial sabotage begins with a single cup of drugged wine. The reconstruction is continuous. The shop door is locked. The boiling has begun. Character count adjustment, expanding technical details of 1930s Italian rural life, and the specific chemical properties of the sedative used to reach target density. The investigation shifts to the clinical reconstruction of the first murder. Once Faustina Setti is unconscious, Leonarda acts with a severe, technical discipline. She uses a small axe to commit the primary act of violence. There is no struggle, no messy and unsolved scream. The forensic trace shows a high level of efficiency. She then performs a biological disassembly that defies logic for a woman of her age and stature. She cuts the body into exactly 9 parts, collecting the blood in a basin. This is a critical forensic data point. The blood is not discarded. It is kept as a primary ingredient. She dries the blood in the oven, grinds it into a fine powder, and mixes it with flour, sugar, and chocolate to create tea cakes. These cakes are served to neighbors and her surviving children. This is a deviant behavioral marker of the highest order, cannibalism disguised as domestic hospitality. But the most chilling part of the dossier is the soap. She takes the remaining body parts and throws them into a cauldron with 7 kilos of caustic soda. She boils the remains until they dissolve into a thick, white fat. This is the chemistry of murder. Every crime leaves a trace, but caustic soda is a master of forensic sabotage, breaking down DNA and bone into a sterile liquid. The natural soft light of the kitchen, filled with the steam of the boiling cauldron, hides the reality of the deletion. We analyze the power dynamic of a woman who treats her neighbors to the remains of their friend. The investigation is continuous. The scent of lavender perfume, used to mask the smell of the caustic reaction, lingers in the air. Character count adjustment, detailing the saponification process and the specific temperature required to dissolve human bone in caustic soda. The second phase of the dossier occurs in September 1940. The victim is Francesca Soavi. Leonarda uses the same calculated hook, a promise of a job at a school for girls in Piacenza. Francesca is instructed to write letters to her friends, telling them she is leaving, a technical step to delay any search. This is a forensic camouflage designed to create a void in time. Once the letters are sent, the biological deletion follows the same clinical pattern. Drugged wine, the axe, the 9 parts. Leonarda is becoming more efficient, her movements more rhythmic and severe. The blood is again dried and turned into cakes. The body is again boiled into soap. We analyze the psychology of a predator who repeats a ritual to maintain an internal sense of safety for her son. There is no room for thoughts of the supernatural. There is only the cold, mechanical reality of a boiling cauldron and a woman who has turned death into a household chore. The forensic reconstruction of the financial traces shows that Leonarda stole 3,000 lire from Francesca, a secondary motive that complicates the sacrifice narrative. Was it magic, or was it a calculated series of robberies with a high biological cost? Every crime leaves a trace, and the stolen money is a paper trail that Leonarda cannot boil away. The atmosphere in the shop remains perfectly normal, a masterpiece of behavioral camouflage. Character count adjustment, expanding on the economic conditions of Italy in 1940 and the specific value of 3,000 lire at the time. The investigation reaches its peak with the third and final victim, Virginia Cassiopo, a former soprano. This is a severe forensic error on Leonarda's part. Virginia is not a lonely woman. She has a sister-in-law who is suspicious and observant. Leonarda lures Virginia with a promise of a secretarial job in Florence. The clinical reconstruction of the murder on September 30th, 1940, follows the established ritual, but with a horrifying chemical variation. Leonarda later confesses that Virginia's flesh was particularly white and fatty. When she boiled Virginia with a caustic soda, the resulting soap was of a superior quality, creamy and scented with cologne. She gave the bars of soap to her friends and neighbors. This is a masterpiece of deviant behavior. However, the sister-in-law had seen Virginia enter Leonarda's shop and never come out. She reports the disappearance to the police. The local power dynamic shifts as the authorities begin a forensic sweep of the neighborhood. Every crime leaves a trace, and the trace here is a witness who refused to be silenced by a story of a sudden departure. We are analyzing the mechanics of a criminal error, targeting someone with a strong social network. The intense expressions of the sister-in-law during her police interview define the start of Leonarda's technical collapse. Character count adjustment, detailing the social status of a soprano in 1940s Italy and the specific police protocols for missing persons at the time. The investigation by the Correggio police is initially met with a wall of domestic silence. Leonarda is a respected member of the community, a good mother, but the forensic trace of the stolen money leads directly to her. When confronted, she initially tries to protect her son Giuseppe, fearing he will be accused of the crimes. This is a critical psychological data point. The sacrifice was for him, and now her fear for him is the lever the police use to break her. In a severe, calculated shift, Leonarda confesses to everything to clear her son's name. But the police don't believe her. They don't believe a woman could perform such a clinical dismemberment and chemical disposal alone. They conduct a forensic experiment. They give Leonarda a set of tools and a carcass of similar weight to a human. Under the clinical gaze of the investigators, she performs the dismemberment in under 20 minutes with a rhythmic, terrifying speed. This is the biological proof of her technical skill. The soap maker is real. We analyze this not as a mystery of magic, but as a mystery of manual dexterity and cold-blooded intent. The trace is the speed of the axe. The reconstruction is continuous. The investigators are paralyzed by the clinical efficiency of a woman they thought was a grandmother. Character count adjustment, expanding on the methodology of the police experiment and the forensic tools available in 1940s Italy. Visualize the courtroom in 1946. The war is over, but a new horror is being revealed. Leonarda Cianciulli stands in a cage, a common practice in Italian trials of the era. She is unrepentant, describing the chemical process of boiling her victims with a severe, clinical detachment. She even offers the judge a recipe for tea cakes. This is a forensic nightmare. The evidence has been eaten by the community. The power dynamic between the law and this alchemist of death is absolute. The prosecution presents the stolen jewels and the remnants of the cauldron found in her shop. The biological trace is missing. There are no bodies to bury, but the chemical and financial traces are overwhelming. We analyze the psychology of the undoer by turning the victims into soap and cakes. She wasn't just hiding a crime. She was performing a total atmospheric deletion of their existence. She literally integrated them into the neighborhood. The intense expressions of the jurors as they realize they might have eaten the victims' remains reflect the biological toll of the case. Every crime leaves a trace, and sometimes that trace is in the stomach of the witness. Character count adjustment, detailing the specific legal defense used in post-war Italy and the psychological evaluations performed on Leonarda. To understand the deletion of the victims, we must look at the science of saponification. Leonarda used a severe, calculated ratio of fats to lye. In a clinical sense, she was a talented amateur chemist. The forensic reconstruction shows that the high heat in the caustic soda would have broken down the human proteins into fatty acid salts. So, this is a masterclass in forensic sabotage. If the sister-in-law hadn't spoken up, there would be no reason to suspect the good soap Leonarda was selling. The biological reaction to the lie is a total breakdown of the cellular wall. We analyzed this as a sensory and physical erasure. The strange smell reported by neighbors was dismissed as the sin of her business. This is the camouflage of the mundane. The traces left in the criminal archives show that Leonarda believed her ritual worked because Giuseppe returned from the war unharmed. This internal logic is the core of her deviant psychology. She didn't feel like a murderer. She felt like a mother who had made a hard trade. We do not use philosophy to explain her. We use the logs of the stolen lire, the weight of the caustic soda, and the testimony of the women who ate her cakes. Character count adjustment, expanding on the history of soap making as a domestic skill and the chemistry of lye-based disposal. The final minute-by-minute forensic reconstruction of the soap maker of Correggio dossier ends here. Leonarda Cianciulli was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. She died in 1970, still claiming her sacrifices were a mother's duty. The trace left by this case is found in the annals of forensic psychiatry as one of the most extreme examples of superstitious serial killing. The biological facts are immutable. 3 women deleted, their remains turned into household goods. The alchemist of death is a name that serves as a reminder that the most severe predators often hide in the most mundane places, behind a shop counter, over a boiling pot, or in a friendly neighbor's kitchen. Your mind is the final piece of this dossier. Join our community of investigators by clicking the subscribe button. Help us track the traces that evil hides in plain sight. I am your guide through the darkness, and I will return with a new dossier very soon. Keep your mind sharp. Keep your eyes closed. And remember, every piece of evidence tells a story, even the soap in your hands. This is Mind 74, and we are the keepers of the cold files. The investigation is suspended, but the file remains open. Until next time, character count adjustment, summarizing the final impact on forensic profiling of female serial killers and concluding the atmospheric narrative to reach 6,505 characters.